I'll admit it. I thought the Browns, coming off of a bye, would be more competitive against the New England Patriots. It's not because I don't think the Patriots are great, but the Patriots have played against a very soft schedule, as opposed to the Browns have played against a very difficult schedule. And while I don't love the construction of the Browns, I do think that there's a reason Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Chubb, even Baker Mayfield, like those guys are competitors. I would have thought you'd get the best version of themselves off a bye week against a Patriots team that did not have as much time to prepare. I was wrong. And that's because I've now determined that the Cleveland Browns are nothing more than a fad diet. And like a fad diet, they're going to work here for the next couple of weeks. I don't know if you looked ahead of their schedule, but in their schedule, they still have the Bengals, who stink twice. Right? They still have the Dolphins, who stink. Steelers are, I think, better than their record, and they're starting to come together, especially defensively, but they do have a backup quarterback. Like, their schedule down the stretchers is not strong, and I think, like a fad diet, they will work in a short instance. On the other hand, why don't fad diets work? Because the fundamentals of how you lose weight are pretty simple. And I understand, and this is a discussion I've actually had with my wife, which is, she's like, you seem to hold it against people who have weight problems. And I was like, no. She's like, well, there's a good portion of it which is genetics. That's true. Genetics do play a factor, but you can fight those genetics with exercise and proper diet and getting your rest. You cut the sugar out of your drinks to begin with. You don't smoke. You don't eat fried food. Everything in moderation. You get up, and if nothing else, you walk every day. I mean, you go back and you look at some of the great weight loss stories. It just came down to a person making a decision to change their life. It doesn't mean that they stayed at 185 and 10% body fat the rest of their life, but you can maintain relatively good health, and you know what those fundamentals are. The same is true in football. Right? To have a good football team, got to have a good offensive line, good defensive line. Got to not turn the football over. You got to not be penalized. Cannot shoot yourself in the foot. You have to be able to run the ball first, throw the ball second. If you can do all of these things, defensively, pressure the passer, make them at least one-dimensional. You don't have to be great in all areas. You don't have to be great in one area. If you're just good, this is a league that most teams are 7-9 to 9-7. Don't believe me? Take the Chargers, right? Gave away a game in Detroit. Gave away a game last week against Tennessee. Gave away one against Denver. Got a gift yesterday in Chicago. That's NFL football. They're all usually decided by a touchdown or less. Most of them, honestly, come down to a field goal or less. And the deciding factors are turnovers, penalties, red zone, special teams, and, of course, what you do on third down. But the Browns are built behind the brash personality of a quarterback who's unproven. He's undersized and feels under-equipped and played in a college offense where he's struggling to evolve into the NFL game. They trade away one of their best, if not their best, offensive linemen, or their second best offensive lineman, to get an elite wide receiver who hadn't won anything for a reason. And remember, when the Miami Dolphins got rid of Jarvis Landry, it was part of their house cleaning when they wanted to start getting a better culture. That's their two wide receivers. And while their head coach might someday or might on a different team be fine at the position, he hadn't called plays for an entire season before this year. In addition to taking on a really, really rigorous job of being a head coach with all these personalities, he's still calling the plays. And shocker here, there doesn't seem to be a rhythm or a balance or a sense of what they exactly are. You know, Ask yourself, why did so many of us think that the Browns would be good this year? We didn't say because of their line, because of their defense, because of their ability to run the football, protect the passer. We said they got OBJ, right? They got Myles Garrett. Look at Myles Garrett with his shirt off. Oh my God, he's a freak athlete. Like, they are a fad diet. They will, just like last year, when they won 7 games, go back and look at the teams they beat. They didn't beat good teams. Well, they beat the Ravens when they were starting Flacco, and the Ravens weren't good then. That's their only win against a playoff team. All 6 other wins were against the bad teams in the NFL. Beat the Bengals twice, who had a historically bad defense and ended up firing Marvin Lewis. Right? Go back and look at who they beat. The fundamentals are the fundamentals for a reason. Here's Baker Mayfield after another disappointing loss.
It's non-discipline, guys not being focused on doing their job. It starts first and foremost with me, to be a leader every single down. Get our guys lined up, make sure that we're set, we're paying attention, because if we can't use cadence, we're hurting ourselves. Anytime we try and use a double count, it seems like we're false starting a little bit, but we'll get the discipline part fixed, the accountability. Like I said, we pointed out the problem. Now we have to execute it on Sundays. Once again, I feel like we had a great week of practice. We just didn't translate it.
Couldn't translate from the practice field to the game field. Right, they had a week off, 2 weeks prepare for the Patriots, and they look like a JV team. They look like a ragtag bunch of fill-ins. False starts in the NFL? Multiple false starts? Who does that? Who does that? Who has 13 penalties after a bye week? The Browns. 3 turnovers on 3 consecutive plays. Who does that? The Browns. The fact is that the Browns are exactly who you'd think the Browns would be if you remove the names, the eye candy of Myles Garrett and Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. Right? You take those off and you're like, oh, how could Joe Thomas walk away from this is why? I want no part of that. No thanks. I didn't wait around. I've been being in a disappointing franchise this long. I didn't wait around to be in a disappointing, dysfunctional franchise that thought they were going to be good, even though they were poorly constructed. Fad diets come and go. And for short periods of time, they do in fact work. But the fundamentals are the fundamentals. In football, if you get penalized more than the other team, if you turn the ball over more than the other team, you are going to lose more often than you win. Right? No different in basketball. Wisconsin basketball for the last 25 years through 2 coaches has been boring as sin. But what don't they do? They don't foul. They don't turn it over. And you know what they do? They win a hell of a lot of games. Ain't that hard. But it takes discipline. It takes the right fit. It takes the fundamentals. Not hey, we won a couple of games against bad teams to make us feel like we were really good, then add some eye candy that's not actually going to help you win. Browns are, everything you think the Browns normally are. The only difference is the names on the back of the jersey, which led you to believe that somehow, some way, they would win their division.
Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus everybody else who's awesome here in Fox Sports Radio.